All right, we're going to call the Hermiston City Council and Urban Renewal Agency for April 22nd, 2022 to order with a declaration of a quorum. We're going to excuse Ms. Myers and Mr. Primer this evening. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome this evening. It's good to see you all. Hopefully everybody had a nice, relaxing evening or weekend after hosting a bunch of our fellow friends from across the state. We're now, Mr. Smith, any changes to the agenda? Okay. We're now at the first opportunity for citizen input. If there are individuals in the audience this evening or online that would like to talk to the City Council, please come up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, direct your comments to me, and limit your comments to not more than 5 minutes. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none. And Lily, nothing online? Okay. The consent agenda, Council, there's 4 items on there. How would you like to proceed? Do you need to pull any of those? No? Any public comment on the consent agenda items, A through D? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D?
So moved.
Been moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Harden, that we approve consent agenda items as presented, A through D. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. So no items are moved. So we're going to move on to item number 7, supplemental, or for a public hearing for a supplemental budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest from the council? Seeing none. Hearing guidelines will now be presented by city staff. Mr. Smith?
The City Council is holding a public hearing for the supplemental budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. The City Council will take public testimony on this issue and make a decision at this meeting. The hearing process will begin with a staff report by myself. Following the presentation of the staff report, the City Council will take public testimony. The Council requests that all people wishing to testify approach the microphone and give their name and mailing address before testifying. People wishing to testify should limit testimony to not more than 5 minutes unless a longer period is provided by the City Council. Written testimony will be accepted from all parties. After everyone wishing to testify has had an opportunity to speak, the City Council will close the public hearing and enter deliberations. Once the public hearing is closed, no further testimony will be received. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're now going to open the hearing. City staff will now present its report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so this is our annual supplemental budget that we do to kind of catch up things that were not anticipated or just problems that were found throughout the fiscal year prior to our getting into the next budget adoption. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the items that were a little more prominent, and then I'd be happy to answer any other questions. So in the general fund, our originally adopted budget was budgeted for a contract city attorney. This makes all the changes for implementing an in-house city attorney. And then in the building inspections department, we had an increase in our credit card fees that we paid because more people are using credit cards to purchase their building permits and so forth. And then the largest item in that department was we repaired the roof of the Carnegie building, and that actually moved fiscal years. We had originally anticipated that it would be done last fiscal year, but the contractor was not able to do it in that timeline, so we adjusted the budget. to reflect that. Under parks, a number of different items have come out higher than expected as we've kind of come out of COVID operations into more normal operations, and so some of those things were budgeted at a lower level based on our current situation when the budget was adopted. That's both in the Parks Department and in the pool. And then the major item in the Recreation Department is we had anticipated the Oregon Community Foundation grant for youth activities, and we had budgeted for the revenue but had not budgeted for the expenditure of that. So this is kind of it was an oversight when we received that grant. So this is to just clarify the spending authority. And then under the non-departmental, our miscellaneous contractual item was above one of the main items that drove that was we had not finalized our agreement with the West County Community Development Group that we've formed. And so we are the contract holder with PAC West for lobbying services, and we're reimbursed for a portion of that from the county and from Umatilla, Stanfield, and Echo. And so this just reflects that change and adjusts our expenses up to reflect that. Then for recycled water, a number of these categories all can be traced back to the increase in costs due to the CBD discussion that we had earlier in the year, and as well as clarifying or putting down the actuals on a bond payment that was not anticipated, or it was just missed. That we have 2 bond payments for that loan, and so the second one had not been budgeted properly. Other than that, into the reserve fund, there are a few smaller items, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Smith, I see some contingency line items that are used to balance some of these expenses. Where's the rest of the money coming from?
Well, for example, in the building inspection, we had expenditure increases, but we also had increased revenues from construction permits. Under the parks, there was parks and recreation fees that came in above, again, our anticipated because of our anticipation of COVID being in force, and revenues were higher as well as expenses. And then on the recycled water and the water side, their contingency is substantial enough that they can cover those additional expenditures.
So we're not getting into our planned ending fund balance. This will still keep us in line to have enough money to get through the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but in their online Exhibit A, there was nothing in there. So, at least in mine anyway. I've got it here in paper, but I don't have it on my computer. Did it show up? Yeah, mine doesn't. I don't know, maybe it's just this version I'm looking at. Yes, ma'am. Okay, gotcha. All right, so the 7 blank pages that were there, I got to go back to a different, got it. Now I see it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the council on resolution number 2216? Okay. Seeing none, I'll take public testimony. All persons speaking must state their name and mailing address and limit testimony to 5 minutes. Are there any proponents who wish to speak? Any neutral parties? Any opponents? Okay. The hearing is now closed. Is there any further council discussion on this? You'll have an opportunity to talk about it too when we get to Resolution 2216. Okay. Can I motion to approve staff report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
So I'm going to give that to Mr. Ron. Councillor Dron motion, seconded by Councillor Barone. Roll call. Yes, movement to accept the staff report.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. All right, we're going to move on to resolutions. Resolution 2216 to supplemental the fiscal year 2022 budget. Mr. Smith.
Yes, as I walked through during the public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions by the council on supplemental budget for resolution number 2216? Any public comment? Okay, we're now going to take a motion to adopt resolution 2216 and lay it upon the record.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Harden to approve resolution number 2216. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number 2217, sewer lift station number 6 reconstruction. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Morgan to take that.
Mr. Morgan, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Resolution 2217 is to award a construction contract to C&E Trenching for $689,000 to reconstruct sewer lift station number 6. That lift station, for those of you who aren't familiar, is over on North First Place by Ridgeway Avenue. That sewer lift station has been there since 1981. Largely, it's a pump and motor lift station that is in a very corrosive environment, so a lot of the electrical components and mechanical components, those types of things, they do wear out, and so 41 years is beyond its design capacity for sure. And so this project has been identified in our recently updated sewer collection system master plan. It's also been on our adopted capital improvement plan for several years, and it's been planned for this current fiscal year. So this would not only replace that sewer lift station, but also move it out of, right now it's in the southbound travel lane of North First Place. We'd be moving it just right around the corner into the Ridgeway Avenue right away, just to get it a little bit more out of the flow of traffic for when the guys need to be out there pumping and cleaning and doing that type of thing for regular maintenance of that facility. We opened bids on it here last week. We got 4 bids, which was good. The 3 lowest ones all came in within about 4% of each other. It was a little bit higher than what the engineer's estimate originally was, but I don't need to continue to harp on the fact that we have some interesting things going on in the contracting world right now, and prices kind of continue to bounce around a little bit. It's still in the range that we had originally anticipated, and the fact that, again, the 3 low bidders were all within 4% leads me to believe that that's definitely the market rate for that type of work right now. So the recommendation would be to proceed with awarding this contract to C&E Trenching and get the project moving here early this summer.
Thank you. You know, it did come in 10% higher, and you know, it seems like the bidding environment out there is pretty tough right now. So is that something that Anderson Perry is looking at reflecting in future bidding and engineering estimates?
Yeah, like I said, I think the numbers that go into those estimates are really bouncing all over the place right now, and so I think, as City Manager Smith mentioned, right now the utility fund does have ample contingency to be able to absorb some of these types of things with inflationary pressures. I think what we'll probably see is, just as Anderson Perry starts to update these cost estimates as we move into updating our capital improvement plan moving forward, we might see a slowdown in some of our ability to do some of these projects as those costs go up. But I think we're so far into this project now that I mentioned in the staff report for us to think that we're going to wait and rebid it, the prices probably aren't going to come down. There's definitely a cost associated with rebidding the project and that type of thing. So all that's to say, yes, Anderson Perry, they're keeping an eye on all of the bidding environment out there, and I think they'll continue to improve their estimates moving forward.
A lot of this has to do with like the inflationary pressures that are going on with fuel or pipe or all that sort of stuff right now.
Yes, it's everywhere right now.
It's everywhere. You're right. How about other questions, Council? Yes, let's go with Councilor Peterson.
So I'm wondering, considering how much higher the bids are, if some of the contractors might be looking at the kind of the long game and wondering, trying to forecast what the end cost will end up being. Maybe if they're aware of what labor costs and everything else might end up being, and that's why they are making their bids a little bit higher, hoping then that their the overall cost is going to end up coming in under. I don't know how it generally works, but it seems that several of the projects that have been getting done have ended up coming in under what the projected cost had originally started out as being. So I'm wondering if that might end up being the case here as well, that if we go with one of these higher than what we expected, but then it ends up coming in, hey, good news, it costs less than we thought.
Yeah, that's certainly something that may happen, and I didn't include it in the agenda material, but when we bid a project, they have to submit their bid tab, which basically they show what their price is for each one of the individual components of the work. How much is the actual lift station itself, how much is, for X number of lineal feet of pipe, all of those types of things are all priced out. And I was actually just looking at that this evening before coming in, and it was interesting to see all four of the bids and see how wildly their numbers vary on the different bid items. And so I think they all still ended up being relatively close to each other, but I think it still tells you that even the contractors, they're, it's not like the engineers are wildly different than the contractors. They're all trying to guess what this thing's going to end up costing coming out the other end as well. And so once we get through the project and out the other side of it, Anderson Perry does a good job of monitoring the construction in progress, and so we'll pay for what they actually install. And so we may see something come in underneath what that final number is, but can't hold you to it.
Councilor Spicer-Coon?
I believe, and so this is an interesting one because this is one of those projects that crosses fiscal years right now. So I believe what we had budgeted for this project was $625,000 for this current fiscal year, but the vast majority of the work is going to be taking place next fiscal year. So when we budget for these projects, we have to kind of span those two fiscal years. So the original cost estimate was in that $625,000 range, all in. Basic, we won't add a line item, but we'll just increase the amount that we'll be putting towards this.
This ultimately saved us money by doing it this way. Isn't that because we moved it out of 395 and now we're doing the lift station on First Street instead?
No, so North First Place is the place to be right now if you're a contractor. So you're thinking about lift station number 3, which is the project that we're relocating out of 395 and bringing it over underneath the railroad line into North First Place. This is lift station number 6, and so this, again, all of these projects are kind of the prime example of why we got into developing our 5-year capital improvement plan on a rolling basis to try and maximize the efficiency of doing projects all in the same area so that we don't come in and have to rip up some asphalt after we had just put in, a new road or something like that. So this is not related to lift station number 3, but it's all in that same area. And so we're doing the sewer projects first, and then we're doing a water line project this fall, and then we're resurfacing the roadway early next year. So we're doing all of those projects in that same vicinity.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Two-part question. The first one is, I know that we're relocating the lift station in the intersection of Ridgeway and First Place. Where is it going to go?
Yes, so if you know where Dr. Floyd Turnbull's chiropractic office is, right there on First and Ridgeway, there's a nondescript metal panel that's there. That's basically the electrical telemetry type things for that lift station. And so it's just going right around the corner. So you don't see where the manhole is necessarily. Most people don't. It's just right there on the corner of First and Ridgeway. So we're just rotating it right around the corner into the Ridgeway Avenue right away.
And my second question was, is this going to extend the construction that's right there in First Place, where I know that we had about 18 months to 2 years that are going on in there. How much longer is that first piece of construction going to last? My question is really because I know that the businesses right on that corner that are going to be impacted because of parking. So I guess my question is, much like last meeting, is I know we're doing things to accommodate, but how long will it last?
Yeah, so again, that'll depend once we actually get into our construction meetings with the contractor. I think, as we mentioned, there's going to be a year and a half of traffic disruptions in that area, and each individual component of work is going to have different impacts on traffic. And so the lift station number 3 project is much more localized. We're just boring across or trenching across the roadway right there by that intersection. There will be a short period of time in between that project and when lift number 6 project gets going. Again, that one's going to be much more localized, just to a couple of blocks there. But again, I don't have the time frame until we have our pre-construction meeting with the contractor. The really disruptive one that's going to be on the way is the water line project, because that's going to be trenching all the way along the entirety of that roadway. So it's going to be on and off, traffic impacts in that vicinity. So.
Thank you. I have one more question. I don't think it doesn't really have to do with this project, but the long-term project of this 18 months in First Place. Is there going to be a trail on the right side or a sidewalk, or I guess what is the walkway going to be on First Place?
Yeah, and Mark can correct me, but on the railroad track side, there will be a walkway, a separated path, and a sidewalk on the other side.
That's going to look beautiful. All right, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions from the council? Okay. Growth sometimes is inconvenient, unfortunately, and our neighbors have been fortunate to put up with us. We seem to have a lot of it going on around town right now, and so just trying to make things better in the long run, it'll end up working out. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2217?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Peterson. Any public comment on this one? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right, resolution number 2218, accepting Airport Road, Ott Road jurisdiction. Mr. Smith.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as we're going through the process of dissolving the EOTech Authority, which was a partnership between Umatilla County and the city of Hermiston. Part of that agreement was that if the county did certain things to the roads that were adjacent to the EOTech property, then the city would take over jurisdiction over those roads, which means we're responsible then for maintenance and upkeep of the road. And as was included in your staff report, basically all of Airport Road from the highway to Ott Road was part of that discussion, and then Ott Road from there was a kind of a little bit different level of work done on different sections of Ott Road. So right at the intersection had a little bit higher level of pavement, but then a different level of pavement was done to the end of EOTech property, and then from the corner of the airport property to Highland Extension, there is another level of paving, a little bit lesser level. But that all is in accordance with the agreement we made with the county. They have made the improvements. There was a bit of a delay on this due to the lawsuit that was filed by one of the adjoining property owners. Once that was resolved, the county finished a portion of that, which was just basically to build a drainage ditch on the side of the road, and all of that has been done. And so, in accordance with that dissolution agreement, staff's recommending that we accept these roads. The county has taken their portion of this action, which I find the language interesting. It offers it to us, and so we can refuse, but this is what we've agreed to. I think from a staff standpoint, we're comfortable with the construction and the projects that have been done, and are recommending we accept these 2 segments of road. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Smith, if I'm looking at the map on here, we're accepting all of Airport Road until the intersection at Ott. And then are we also accepting Ott from 395 all the way to East Highland? No, just
No.
the section like 500 feet east or north and south at that intersection.
Just the section on the north side, or on the south side, only the section 500 feet south,
Right.
and then everything to Highland Extension.
Oh, okay, everything north we're accepting?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, Council? Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Part of that contract, they agreed to pave Hot Road 2 lanes, crossing turn lane 500 feet north and south, so it's intersection of Airport Road. Has that been done and done under city standards?
Yes.
Any other questions, councilors? Yes, we got a youth advisor question. Go ahead, Ms. Doherty.
Mr. Smith, so what is the purpose of bringing in these roads to the cities? Like, what's the
Great
strategic
question.
importance to it?
That's a great question. So, as I put in my staff report, this is really an ongoing discussion that we have with the county as we grow, because we'll grow and kind of take in surround county roads. And so we have something called a joint management agreement where, that states certain things, like they'll bring it up to a certain standard and then we take it over. And really it's if it was strictly on money, we wouldn't do this, because we'd love for Commissioner Doran to keep maintaining the road. But it's more about county roads are different than city streets. That they usually are constructed a little bit differently. We typically have, sidewalks or paths, things on them that they're not typically maintaining on a regular basis. And so our staff is more familiar with it. So that's one piece. And then the other is often they'll have to come maintain just a short part of a road that's kind of surrounded by city. And so it's more efficient for us to take on some of that maintenance when they're close to each other and when they're surrounded by the city. So this one is probably a little bit unique. It's probably a little bit ahead of when we would normally do it. We would probably wait until more development happens, but because of the EOTech project, this was something that the county was interested in, and with the state grant, we were comfortable that it would be at a level, constructed at a level that we could maintain it. Thanks.
Question. There's always a constant conversation with our partners at the county about roads right inside or next to the city. We don't often get enough funds to maintain those, and so it's a heavy burden on the city budget. So any additional roads we take on, we have to maintain without a lot of funding to help do that. And so we don't want to expand our footprint any more than we have to, because we have such a limited budget to work with. And as we all know, roads eventually wear out and they need repair, and so we have to come up with those resources. So this one was like Mr. Smith said, we had a unique conversation with the county, and it was a great collaboration and partnership to get that road improved. So this is a little bit different. Other questions from the council? Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt? How about public comment? Sorry. Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2218 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. On, seconded by Mr. Harden, that we approve Resolution 2218 as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dorn, for the present. March 2022 financial report. Mr. Smith.
Yes, I'll ask Mr. Kay to handle this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'll wait for slides to come up. Hope they come up. And if they don't come up, I'll be glad to get my notes and speak to the report that's in the package. Why don't we do that?
There it is. Just gotta be patient.
When I start moving, it works. March 2022, and I apologize this is so late in the month, but we're in the middle of budget season, and I'm finding myself not being able to get things done in a timely fashion with our lead time on agenda items. The Urban Renewal Agency is doing really well. They have 100% of projected property tax revenue collected. I think they will probably end up the year somewhere around 104% of projected property tax. You will see some information on this in the hearing after this meeting for the agency to do a supplemental. The wayfinding signs included some things that we did at the moment that we needed to cover with the supplemental. General fund resources. Transfers and revenue for March were $974,000, which is way over the $488 projected. That is due to one big item, and that is the $585,000 transfer back to the general fund from the local improvement district that we had provided them last fiscal year as working capital as we started work out there in the local improvement district. We had it budgeted to come back this year, and this is the month in which we did it. We weren't specific as to what month we were going to get that back in the general fund, but it happened in March as we wrapped up the lid. Absent that transfer, we would probably be somewhere around $100,000 less than projected, which is not bad for this time of year, given the situations we're in right now in the economy. Expenses for March were $1,403,000, which basically it's a lot of small things within the departments in the general fund, $77,000 above projected. We continue to focus on mission critical issues. Right now, through 3/4 of the year, we're 12.7% below projected expenses. I will never stop complimenting our department heads for minding their budget dollars. The detail, you can see we're going by your action tonight with the supplemental. You will take care of the deficit in the legal expense category as well as in recreation and parks. So those will be in the black for the rest of the year, we hope. And I think we're doing a very good job of managing expenditures in the general fund. For the year, we ended March for the general fund at $5,006,000, which is roughly 2.6 times our minimum reserve requirement. I'm comfortable that we will not have an issue meeting that requirement in the future going into June, July, and August. Through 9 months on the utility and street funds, Three funds are in really good shape. This is the first month we're actually seeing the impact of the Shears plant fire on regional water. There's been a lot of discussion about that. They are not taking potable water right now, and that's going to be a continuing issue for the rest of the fiscal year. The city has stepped in, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Smith, that we're taking some water to help with that process, correct?
We're looking at that more from the standpoint of what do we need to do to make sure that the treatment system does not sit idle and have problems come up with it. So we're having Anderson Perry help us look at it and make sure. And so next budget year, we may be taking a little more water than we normally would from the regional water system at this time.
Shear's the only user of potable water?
That's correct.
And then there's a bunch of capital projects. We talked about the lift station number 6. We've got the backup. All of these are in various phases of construction. I hope that you read these. I hate to take the council's time to walk through each one. I would always defer to Mr. Morgan if there's one thing he wants to speak about or address in particular. It takes 2 pages. I like to be able to make sure you are informed as to where we are with them. Anything you care to add, Mr. Morgan? Okay. And then finally, we have what I call the city capital projects report, the airport apron rehab. They're out there working. They set up work March 21st. They hope to be done by the end of May. Riverfront Park rebuild. Playground structures hopefully will be installed by June. The old parking areas will be hydro-seeded. The South Hermiston Industrial Park lid, this will be the last month you see that. It is considered completed. We're waiting for EDA to give us their half of the project costs. I am very hopeful it comes in before June 30 because I want to get the revenue in, not revenue, but the reimbursement in this fiscal year. And then City Hall, you can notice they're starting on the east facade, being installed, brickworks completed this week, and they're actually starting to put glass in the windows. And with that, I'd be glad to stand any questions.
Starting to look like a pretty nice building with the window glazing going in and the plastic coming off and the brick all finished, yeah. Starting to look really nice. Any questions on the financial report? Seeing none. Any public comment? None. Thank you, Mr. Kay.
Thank you, sir.
Can I get a motion to accept the financial report as presented?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Spicer-Coon, seconded by Ms. Councillor Davis, that we approve the March financial report as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Committee reports. Anyone?
We had a Parks and Rec meeting.
Okay. You want to turn your microphone on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Does that
The
sound
Parks and
on?
Rec meeting
Okay.
was last Thursday night, and we talked about potentially, we dreamed about maybe some potential big housing development coming, possibilities of park things we'd like to see there. So we're just daydreaming. Lots of pool updates, program updates, activity updates. Still still figuring out things as far as the pool. Some repairs need to be done. Prices of everything is double. The prices for chemicals and everything is high, so there's some struggles there. There's a big spring bazaar, May 14th, and an art festival downtown. May 14th, same day, yeah.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you. I have 2 updates. I have a EOTech update and a Hispanic Advisory Committee update. From our EOTech update, we had a quorum, which was great. We were able to talk about 3 items in which to prioritize for projects. The projects that we had in front of us were water rights, It was also state grant funds to fairgrounds and also the RV parking. And so the EOTech was tasked with prioritizing these and how we're going to go about them. And at the end of the committee meeting, we for sure decided that water rights was the most important thing. I was really happy about that. Again, as fellow councilors, as you know, when we're in committee meetings, we can't really vote. We can always put in our opinion. So I was really happy that the committee went with the water rights. Other than that, we talked about the RV park. I think that one's going to go towards the very end of what we want to do just because the water rights are so critical. Building the infrastructure, having the engineering study, and everything that comes with it. Another thing that we talked about in EOTech was a barn discussion. I believe that the fair is going to self-fund and fund a cloak to cool down the barns. Unfortunately, I guess a pig died last year during fair because it was really hot, and so they're going to put these shading cloaks and going to try to do their best to try to cool down the barns. So as far as that, we still have a lot of discussion to make about priorities. The good thing was that water rights was the first, and it looks like we're going to move forward on that. Other than that, also, City Manager Smith was also at the meeting, so I'm sure he'll talk about it in his report on anything that I missed. Hispanic Advisory Committee was great. Unfortunately, we didn't have the regular Cinco de Mayo like we usually have, but there is going to be an event that's going to take place on May 1st. It's going to be from 10 to 10, and it's going to be up at the EOTech. So we're still trying to do Cinco de Mayo, but I know it did lose a little bit of steam just over the pandemic, trying to gather funds to put on such a big event. And so unfortunately, it wasn't as big as we wanted it this year, but it was really great to have community members still really care about the event and want to make it a staple. I think after talking a little bit in Hispanic Advisory Committee, we know at EOTech we have two staples, which is the fair and the rodeo. We want Cinco de Mayo to be a staple for our community. Other than that, we did have County Commission candidate Cindy Timmons come and speak to the committee, which is great. I love when elected officials come to the Hispanic Advisory Committee seeking input from our committee and all the great work that it's been able to do. And so other than that, Cindy was able to talk about a couple of programs and things that she did while she was around the county. One in particular was the immersion program they have in Milton Free Water. I know they have that in Umatilla and in Milton Free Water, but it's really great to see kind of services tailor-made and meet the community where it's at. So those were the two committee meetings that I attended, and that's what I got.
Perfect. Thank you. So the event on May 1st is not labeled a Cinco de Mayo event.
It will be Cinco de Mayo, but it's not being put on by the same committee that usually puts it on. But it will go on May 1st.
Okay. In the event center, outside, both?
I think it's going to be both, mainly on the outside.
Okay.
Just, yeah, like previous years. Hopefully it doesn't rain, but
Yeah.
yes, outside.
10 to 10. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Ms. Smith, are you going to talk about the water rights when it comes to your, okay, perfect. How about other committee reports? Yep.
I guess I've seen in the paper and some statements going around that one of the commissioners has said that doesn't feel that the barns up there are adequate for fair and they need expansions and need additional barns. Is that something that you discovered or discussed at your meeting?
Yes, so we did discuss that for a while. The legislature allocated 2 different rounds of funding. So this first year, it's going to be $277,000, but it's specifically going to something that has to be built. So we went back and forth a little bit in the committee whether that funding will be for the barns or it will be for the water project that we need to build. So it was a pretty good discussion. Obviously, people on both sides really have their own interest in what they're wanting to do, and both of these are good for our community. Ultimately, that's why we were saying water rights first. The funding for the barn and everything that comes with it was tabled because we weren't really able to come to that agreement just yet. But one thing that we were able to establish is water rights first. And then with the barns, they did talk about the shading because of that reason. I think the other reason was it was just very hot for a lot of the animals there, and it's starting to burst out the seams. The great thing is, one of the things they were able to talk about is the participation has gone up by a lot. I think they said in the last, a decade ago, they probably had like 20, 30 showings. And this year they had upwards of 80, which definitely knocked it out of the ballpark compared to the years before. So they're experiencing great problems, which is there's a lot of participation, but they need more space. And so that hasn't been fleshed out just yet. We had that one committee meeting. We're hoping the next one with more information from both parties, because I know that the fair needed to talk to their stakeholders, and we also need to discuss exactly how we're moving forward on the water rights project. So as of right now, it was a topic of discussion, but there hasn't been a resolution just yet.
Good question. I know the state allocated $1 million towards fairs this year, and Umatilla County was one of those recipients. And so is that conversation going on currently about how they're going to use that money?
Yes, Commissioner Dorn and myself met and had a good discussion a few weeks ago, and then I know the Fair Board has had some discussions about it, and so yes, we're having discussions to find a way that's mutually beneficial to use those funds.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, how about other committee reports?
Public Safety met tonight, and all of you got the report, the quarterly report from Jason. And Jason, you did it really well tonight, so can you kind of just give us some highlights? As I know you've got the information. He was so fast. I was the only one there. The rest of us were not there.
The other two are sick.
Anyhow, so I will say this. The police department is doing super, okay? It's being shorthanded and everything. And I think that they're doing a tremendous job in the department.
Yeah, so the majority of what we talked about actually was personnel, just updating Councillor Harden on where we're at personnel-wise. Council has not received the report yet. I have not sent it to you yet, so I will do that.
Apologies. At least I got it.
I'll do that first thing tomorrow.
Okay.
Specific to just the activity that we're seeing, you know, and we talked about the staffing challenges, but our calls for service are up 14% from last year. Traffic stops are up 22%. Reports taken are up 27%. Total arrests are up 28%. Citations issued are up 43%, all when comparing to first quarter last year. We did have 3 crime categories that were not in the normal range when we're looking at the statistics. I reminded everyone that was in attendance, you know, we're talking relatively small numbers, so you know, 1 or 2 here, added here, or taken away here can equate to large percentages, but the 3 categories that were not in the normal range were rape, larceny, and auto theft. So I looked at the 3 rape investigations that we took during the first quarter. Two of the cases involved juveniles, juvenile on juvenile, and all 3 cases, everybody was familiar with each other, so we did not have any stranger on stranger rape, not to make any less of the 3 that we had. The larceny is mostly attributed to the increase in shoplifting that we're experiencing. And then as far as the auto theft being up, that's one of those that I can't really pinpoint exactly what is going on and why it's up, but it's outside the normal range as well. And then I just briefly ended by talking about the population increase. There's a graph that shows the population increasing 16% since in the last 10 years, and so we know that an increase in population is going to create an increase in demand for services, the police department being one of those. And then we finished on just talking about the National Faith and Blue weekend that we're going to do the second weekend in October. We're still in the planning mode, but we've got, I think, some incredible players at the table, if you will, being Brandon and the Parks Department. Internally, there's members at the police department that are a part of that, and then the faith-based advisory group is also a partner in that planning. So more information to come on that yet, probably this summer.
Jason, I've been reading a lot in the Oregonian about vehicle, I'm not sure theft is right, but they're stealing a lot of catalytic converters and parts, and I mean, they're really having a lot of problems in Portland. Are we seeing any of that out here yet?
Yeah, unfortunately. Had a teacher at the high school, broad daylight, vehicle parked out on Highland. Person jacked the car up, cut the catalytic converter, in and out in about 2 minutes. It was on video, people driving by, but nobody really realized what was going on.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, so it's, unfortunately, the theft thing is carrying out over here. But yeah, it's almost epidemic, it seems like, in Portland. They're really having a tough time with that right now, so. How about other committee reports? So, mayor's report. It's been a busy couple weeks since we last saw each other. I'm a part of the LOC's Tax and Finance Policy Committee. So the League of Oregon Cities has multiple committees that it puts together kind of in the off-season to talk about potential legislative issues that they would like to address in the next legislative session. And so I sit on the Tax and Finance Policy Committee, and so we look at revenues for cities and ways that we can address some of the concerns that we hear from our constituents around those. And so we've met twice in the last couple weeks and continue to talk about trying to improve revenue streams for cities. We also had Mr. Smith and I attended a small cities meeting in Oregon by the LOC. They put it on. And it was mostly smaller cities. It was Echo, Stanfield, Cove, Union, Boardman, Oregon, Lexington, and Heppner all came. It was a pretty good turnout and good conversations about the LOC and what they're doing to assist communities, and also what communities are looking for from the LOC. And so they really appreciated the legal services. We worked hard as a organization to carve out, I think it's $10,000 or up to $10,000 in free legal work that cities can ask for, and it has to be, I think it's specific to Eastern Oregon right now.
Yeah, I think because of the staffing challenges at LOC, they haven't expanded it into the Southern Oregon area where that the board had previously approved.
Yeah, and so, and they also talked a little bit about department, everybody's struggling in public works right now and trying to find specialists and services and how we can have maybe some shared resource structures. It was overall a good conversation, and trying to figure out ways that we can be supportive of all sizes of communities across the state. And then we had a guest appearance from Senator Wyden on the 19th. Myself and Jackie Chavez were presented a flag that had flown over Washington, D.C. And mine was in appreciation of the city's support for shearers and the folks that lost their jobs out there. The city really rallied around those individuals and trying to get them the resources necessary in order to try and recover as quickly as possible, not only as a business organization, but the employees specifically. And then Jackie Chavez was I think she's a plant manager there at Shears, and she's still the plant manager. I think they said they have 4 staff members currently still employed. So several of them showed up. And so it was nice to be recognized by Senator Wyden. And he's working to try and keep that organization in our community. The loss of 200 jobs is significant to a smaller community like us. And so he recognizes that, and so wanted to do a special shout out to the city of Hermiston and Shears for the work we did for those employees. And then kind of had a big event last week, Thursday and Friday. Hermiston hosted the League of Oregon Cities spring symposium, spring conference. We had the board meeting here on the LOC board meeting on Wednesday, And then we had the conference on Thursday and Friday. Sold out conference. There was over 200 individuals that attended. Lots of really positive comments from people. And I think Hermiston did a great job putting a positive face on. I just got the feedback like, you guys got so much going on out here. It's so beautiful out here. I didn't realize, this was going on out here. Like, just shocked that, Hermiston was just as good or better than some of the cities that they have on the west side. It seemed surprising to some folks, and just very complimentary. I think everybody had a great time. We had some excellent socializing and networking events. Echo Ridge hosted us one evening. We had dinner out there, and so I think people are just excited to get out and interact and be social again and see people's faces, and just the the smiles and the hallway conversations you get to have, and just the different people you get to meet, and we all have our similar challenges and struggles that we're facing, and how are we doing that, and taking little nuggets away here and there that you can potentially take back to your community and help solve some challenges that you may be facing. So very well received. I want to congratulate Hermiston and thank everybody that was involved. I know Mr. Smith spoke a couple times, also hosted a tour. I think, Mark, you spoke at least once, and Lily and Crystal and Heather all helped put together the plants in the cups. Those were a huge hit. So much so that we didn't have enough. So I think some of the vendors ended up taking some of them home too, and there was people coming up to me afterwards, I didn't get one. They were a nice gift, so thank you for that and putting those together. They went over really well.
Councillor Peterson also spoke.
Oh yes, Councillor Peterson spoke. Yes, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I got to moderate a conversation with our local legislators. That was really good, really well received, I think. You know when a topic is important and valuable when the whole room is completely silent. Normally at lunch, people are socializing and talking across the table. The room was quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. No, nothing. It was very well received, I think. And we got to do a tour. Brandon helped us out on a tour. We toured Kennison Field Project, EOTech, and Funland. So that was fun to show off some of the public-private partnerships that we've been able to capitalize on for the benefit of our communities. And then we wrapped it up with a little high school rodeo on Friday night, and dinner served by Barnett and Morrow up at EOTech in the Shoot 8 area. People really enjoyed that too. So, and we had perfect weather. I mean, it was beautiful both nights. So, couldn't have been a better week. All right. Anything else, councilors? Yes, youth advisor. Hold on just a second. We'll get to you. Councilors? Mr. Ron?
So I read that Officer Studebaker retired last week. I just wanted to say that we will miss his posts, and we wish him well. I also read of the passing of Mr. Thomas McCann, the Stanfield's mayor and Vietnam vet. He was a man that seems to be very involved. I personally did not know him, but I still wanted to send my sincerest condolences to his wife, family, friends, and colleagues. And I also want to thank Josh Ross, his wife, and the community, friends, and businesses that helped make the Spinden Home Project a success this weekend. The home was renovated. I wasn't there physically, but I read about it. So thanks to the newspaper for reporting on it. But it really shows how Hermiston just comes together in a time of need. And, I'm so pleased that someone saw a need, jumped into action, and got other people around to come together for this family. So it was really neat to read about it. I wish I could have been there, but it's still a nice way to uplift someone's life. So I want to thank all of those that were involved in this project. I also stopped by to thank a lot of the vendors that were there at the LOC conference, to thank them for their time. And I heard a lot of positive feedback from them too. I told Lily about it, but I wanted to tell the administrators too, because they said that Hermiston administrators and the staff overall are really good to work with, pleasant people that get things done. So I just wanted to pass on and let you know their comments. And I have something else. I also want to congratulate Elizabeth Doherty and Haley Gardner. She was here tonight, but she had to step out. After our meeting, they were selected by Umatilla Electric, among other students from our surrounding areas, to represent Hermiston at the Washington, D.C. tour, where they have all expenses paid, so that they're able to learn more about Umatilla, or more about electric cooperatives, more about government, be able to meet with legislators. So I am so happy for you guys. And I know that it's going to be just an awesome experience. I have not been there, but when I worked for Umatilla Electric, this was a program that I was so passionate about, and it's going to be a great experience. So just wanted to say that. And I also want to thank the Chamber, Angela Purcell, and Hermiston Parks and Recs, all the staff members that were involved to make the candidate forum a possibility. Again, I was not able to make that because I had another meeting going on, but you know, it was great that we provided that forum. I know how nerve-wracking that could be because I was there not that long ago, but it's so important, you know, for other members of the community what it seemed to be well attended, so that we know how we will be able to vote in this coming election. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it was well attended. Had to end up pulling out more chairs for those people. So, yeah, good job to all the candidates too for your efforts that evening. It's like Mr. Round said, it's always so nerve-wracking and anxiety-ridden, and so everybody did a great job. How about other counselors? Yes, Ms. Broom.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the League of Oregon Cities and that experience that I had. I mean, yet again, it's one of these experiences, and it was great to have it in person, and especially great to host it. Much like Mayor Drotzman was saying, you could not help the feeling of people just being super happy about being here, super happy about exploring and seeing the different services we provide, and more on the council level, or an administrative level, seeing how we resolve our problems versus how other cities resolve their problems, and how we can maybe find common ground and fix or address problems that we have that maybe other cities have resolved. So it's just a super great time to be able to share ideas, to network, to understand what problems are going on that side of the state. And then we end up realizing that a lot of our problems are really the same, especially as cities. It's not really a divided political atmosphere like it is on the federal government. Cities are different. And so it's really great to be able to collaborate with all counselors and hear their opinions on this. The other thing I was really happy about is just knowing the direction our city is going. A lot with the ARPA funding, a lot of this with housing and addressing housing, a lot of the issues that we're trying to address on a nation level, we've already been doing that. And so it was really great to hear other cities being like, hey, I really want to take that idea. That's a great idea of what you're doing with private-public partnerships, what you're doing to encourage more housing. And so just a lot of the things that we do are being replicated, which is really great testament to the staff that we have and to everything that they've been able to do as a city. Other than that, it was really good to hear new ideas. One of the things that kind of struck me, I kind of thought of it and I put a little asterisk, was just how much funding that is coming from the ARPA funding and how many grants and dollars there still is out there. And so I would like city staff, if you haven't already, but I know that there is a website they called bill.gov, and so there is just a laundry list full of grants and applications that are still out there that we can potentially qualify for. So that was one of the things that stuck in my mind that would be a really good opportunity to still have. I know pouring through that requires a lot of time and effort, but hopefully landing something on the other side will be really good, especially with the ongoing issues that we still want to address as a community. It was great to listen to the legislative updates, knowing what's going on in Salem and knowing how that's going to impact our local community is really good to understand. And, that way we can either brace for it or we can advocate for something that we want to do on our end. It was great listening to Mayor Drotzman, Councillor Peterson, our administration. You guys did a phenomenal job. You guys make us look very, very good as a community, and as councillors, you guys did amazing. And so I know people valued the sessions that everybody attended, from housing to economic development, to legislative update to DEI conversations. A lot of people I talked to were really, really excited. They wanted to get to know more of people in Hermiston and wanted them more involved at the LOC just because of the things that we bring to the table. And especially being the largest city in Eastern Oregon and seeing how we're resolving a lot of the problems and on the front end, honestly, of a lot of these issues was really great to see. It was really great to feel as a counselor. It makes you take more pride in your community. It was really great. There was people were asking me, they're like, hey, Councillor Brown, is there like a mural of watermelons everywhere? I heard there's a mural of watermelons I can take pictures of. And so, just comments like that, like they were obsessed with the watermelons, which is awesome. So it was just really good to have those types of conversations. I know there was a counselor that parked at New Hope and tried to make their way to the water tower and try to take a picture with it. So it was really cool just to see how much excitement people are about our city, and people, like Mayor Drotzman said, they're really excited for our growth. They didn't know that we're growing this much or we have this much going on. So overall, I was really, really happy. I want to give a shout out. I know the Hermiston School District isn't here, but I want to give a shout out to them because without them, I wouldn't have been able to go to that event. So I'm really happy they acknowledged and they saw the value that would bring to our community. So I was really happy for that, and just a great experience, a great way to showcase Hermiston, a great way to come back and bounce back from the pandemic.
Good. And yeah, thank you to all the counselors that were there. Everybody made it, other than Mr. Primer, and he was out of town. So yeah, so thank you for the counselors for your participation as well. I'll just add on, one thing that, kind of resonated with me throughout our conversations, even with Senator Wyden when he was here, is how are we using those ARPA funds and the infrastructure funds and that sort of thing. We need to do a good job about sharing our stories of how we put those to use. There is some pressure at the federal level to try and claw some of that back, and so we need to show that we've been good stewards with that money, that cities know how to use it. We had to fight tooth and nail against the state to keep it all, and so local jurisdictions need to make sure that we're telling our story of how we put it to good use and that it was utilized and that they can trust us to do that. And so I hope the city can try to find some ways to communicate that with our legislators and the federal legislators as well, because hopefully we can get more pass-through funds to our communities so that we have better local control and can provide those services to our friends and neighbors, because we know best in our communities how to utilize those. I think Mr. Spicer-Coon, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a couple of small things that I wanted to bring up. I had a discussion with another attorney, and I learned last week that our city prosecutor had quit, so we're currently seeking another city prosecutor. I was a little shocked to see that we're actually asking for less, wanting to pay them less than we paid the previous city prosecutor. It doesn't seem like a real great way to be encouraging experienced attorneys to get in here and take over our city prosecution job. And that did get me thinking, especially with the public safety meeting here tonight and hearing what the police are doing. Another part of public safety is our court system and what's happening in here. And, I've been sitting here for a year now, and I don't think I've seen a single report from either our court administrator or our current city judge. So I don't know what's really going on there. I don't think they're making a report to the Public Safety Committee, which I would think would be a great place for them to give a report and let know what's going on with our court system. It's the second step in the criminal process and figuring out how to take care of people that have committed crimes in our city, I think is an important thing. And if we don't know what's going on at the branch of government that we're supposed to be overseeing, it's kind of hard for us to oversee and make sure that the court system is moving in the proper direction. One thing I noticed going to the League of Cities meeting is our welcome sign up there in Airport Way is still kind of a pile of rubble. It hasn't been replaced. It would look pretty nice to have a nice big welcome sign up there coming into the north side of the city. So hopefully that's something we're working on and working on it through that, maybe the wayfinding sign program, but I don't know.
Beth, you got an answer to that?
Yes, we have had a design put together so that we can put that project out to bid. Unfortunately, the estimate on that is very high, so we're looking at exactly how we're going to fund that. But we are working on it. We haven't just let it sit there and rot. Councillor Harden has also been keeping that in the forefront of our attention. So
That's good. How about other councillor reports? Yeah, Mr. Brown.
I do want to acknowledge Councillor Spicer-Coon's comment. I think it would be important for the council to receive some information on what's going on in the court system, whether it's just an update on how things are quarterly, might not need to be monthly, but just an understanding of what's going on. I personally am excited about what we talked about in goal setting session about having a mental health court, hopefully down the line. I think that will address a lot of the issues that we have in community. But getting an update, I think, would be pertinent for council.
Agreed. Is our city administrator been, or our city court administrator been here long enough that she would feel comfortable presenting maybe in a work session or something?
I mean, that actually has been on, it was on my list when we lost our last administrator to ready to kind of bring that forward. So yes, we will be bringing that forward. Councillor Spicer-Coon had brought that to my attention at our regular meeting. So yes, we will work on scheduling that.
Perfect. I like that idea. Yes, Mr. On, you had something else?
Yes, I totally forgot, but I was part of the diversity, the equity, and inclusion session, and I just wanted to say that I really learned a lot. It kind of stretched us to think, beyond our little box, or my little box. And I just thought, that presenter, Councillor Peterson, did a phenomenal job with Chris. I can't remember his last name, but I learned a lot, and I just want to thank Mr. Smith for allowing us this opportunity to attend a conference. This is my first time at the city level, so it's like drinking water out of a fire, hydrant. But it was really nice to be able to make connections with other folks, and there were some interests about learning about our faith-based committee as well. So I promised them that I was going to send the info to Lily so that she could follow up with some information to them. But I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to attend the conference. I learned a lot, and certainly, you can get involved in so many things, which I really like. I wish I had more time to be able to do that, but it was really nice to know how the different ways that you can stay involved and continue to make a difference within the League of Cities. So thank you for that.
Very good. This was the second time that the League of Oregon Cities has done a spring conference. There's a fall conference, which is their typical annual conference. This year it's in Bend at River House. So please put that on your calendar. It is typically a 3-day event. I think it's still a 3-day event this year. And so if you can attend, or would like to attend, you probably should let Lily know as soon as possible, because as soon as that event center opens up for reservations, it sells out within minutes. So you can walk right across the street to it. So it's super convenient location, and again, more education, and usually gets a significantly larger attendance, maybe 600 people or so. Other councillor comments? Yes, Ms. Councilor
And
Peterson.
so just to let you know, my fellow presenter was Christopher Lopez, and he's actually the president of the People of Color Caucus. And then we had, let's see, Jenna Jones. She's one of our lobbyists with the LOC, and we had a hoot putting that thing together. We had so much fun, and at the same time, we didn't want to give too much heavy information, just enough to make people want to learn more, although it's pretty heavy stuff, and there's a lot of it. So, but we got some really good feedback, and we had some really good conversations and follow-up afterwards. And I wasn't joking about the joke I showed and said that I told the guy I'd name my cat after him if you let me use this joke. And I even showed Mark their seat because I tried to get, compensate, like, can I get, I showed, like, come on. And he said, no, it was just a switch for a kind, because I literally used an artist's work, and I compensated him by naming my cat after the artist. The middle name only, not the first name. I don't want to confuse my cat. But you should always, compensate artists if you use their work, and I did, because I'm honest that way. So, but I will say that the session was well attended, and everyone came back from the restroom and stayed off their phones. And if that isn't the mark of a good session, then I don't know what is. No matter how old you are, that's a good mark of a good session. And I also got Christopher, Councillor Lopez, to go down the slide, because I took him over to the park. And we had a great conversation and stuff, but I do actually have a picture of him coming out the other end of the slide, completely airborne. We had a great time. So, and he was very impressed with the park, because who wouldn't be? Right. So, yeah, showing off Hermiston was just so much fun. So, anyway, I had a good time.
Good. All right. I think we're on to our youth advisors. I know Ms. Gonzalez Mendoza had her hand up and ready to go, so let's start off with you. That's okay. Just anxious. You're ready to talk. That's good. Awesome. That's a lot of excitement. It's good to see, you can see your face light up with excitement about the story you're telling, and it's nice to see that again. You know, one of the unfortunate tragedies of COVID was, you know, our effects to our mental health, and we lost our interconnectivity, and, you know, we're social animals, and so we miss that, and so it's kind of taken it for granted for a long time, so it's nice to get out and enjoy that again. So it's good to see you smile, and sounds like your fellow students are having a good time as well. One of the greatest memories my kids ever had was going to outdoor school. And so they, do you? Yeah. And so it's a great experience for our kids, and I'm glad we can still continue to do that and fund it and that sort of thing, because I think it's an important experience for kids. How about other comments from youth advisors? Yes? Noel? Can you hear him? I'm not sure your mic's on. How about switching with Julissa?
I know this one works.
Thank you, Mr. Kay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, that's better.
Oh. So we have, I signed up for marching band recently, and we're about to do, in order to like raise some money for marching band, we're going to be selling like these chocolate bars. We're going to be making like cookie dough, and we're also going to be, it's going to be through spring, and I think during the summer as well. And we're going to be also doing like car washes. So like if you need a car wash, but we're also going to be picking up trash after the fair that's going to be in. It's gonna be. Is it during the summer? It's in August. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that, and what else? So that's what I have for marching band, and I just want to bring up Eco Club. So far, we have been going around and cleaning up trash. We haven't been able to as recently because we haven't had many members yet, but I'm trying to gather more, and we just want more locations. If you guys have any like places like, oh, there's this little park here, hasn't been cleaned in a while, no one cleans it, so we can ask Eco Club to clean it for us. So if you have anything like that.
Perfect. I'm sure we could find you a number of different spots where you could help out.
Yeah.
Right, Brandon? It's a great project, great community volunteer effort as well.
That's it. Thank you.
And so make sure, Manuel, when you have, you know, your product to sell before city council meetings, bring them to the city council meetings. I'm sure some of us will be happy to help support your band boosters. Ms. Doherty, anything else? You good? All right, perfect. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so the LOC conference is October 5th through the 7th. If you want to put that, and as we get more information, we will circulate that to you. Another item that I wanted to just thought was interesting, I saw the other day as I was walking around downtown, Shears is leasing a small office space in the downtown for their leadership at this point. And then just to kind of just add a little bit to what Councilor Barone was talking about at EOTech. One, we did plan to have an update here with Al, but he recently had hip replacement surgery, and I thought it might be better to give him a little more time to recover, even though he was working last week at the conference. But the water project, we are, the path we're working towards right now is working towards switching irrigation districts, and then being able to get water from the Hermiston district, which has available water rights, whereas we're just leasing temporarily right now rights from the Stanfield district. So we're working towards that. And then, you know, like I mentioned, I've had conversations with the fair and the county on the grants that are available, and so we're working on all those projects, and we should have something back to you in the near future as far as the kind of the two larger projects that we've been working on, which is field development and then the RV event parking project. So those are the two that the committee was discussing in a lot more detail. So, but that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the council before we adjourn for the urban renewal meeting? Okay, we are going to adjourn the city council meeting and convene the urban renewal agency meeting for a public hearing. We have a supplemental budget for fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest from the council? Seeing none, how about the hearing guidelines, Mr. Smith?
The Urban Renewal Agency Board is holding a public hearing for the supplemental budget for fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. The Urban Renewal Board will take public testimony on this issue and make a decision at this meeting. The hearing process will begin with a staff report by Planning Director Clint Spencer. Following the presentation of the staff report, the Urban Renewal Board will take public testimony. The board requests that all people wishing to testify approach the microphone and give their name and mailing address before testifying. People wishing to testify should limit testimony to not more than 5 minutes unless a longer period is provided by the Urban Renewal Board. Written testimony will be accepted from all parties. After everyone wishing to testify has had an opportunity to speak, the Urban Renewal Board will close the public hearing and enter deliberations. Once the public hearing is closed, no further testimony will be received. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're now going to open the hearing. City staff will now present its report. Not working.
These microphones, let me tell you.
Touchy.
But tonight we're holding a public hearing for a supplemental budget for the Urban Renewal Agency to add additional money into our wayfinding sign program. Now, when we set the budget at this time last year for our wayfinding estimates, we just took the 2013 Urban Renewal Plan estimate for how much it would cost to install wayfinding signs and put that in to the budget. This was before we actually had gone out for an RFP or anything. And so when we actually had our sign bids come in, they came in about 20,000 over where we thought they would be, which is pretty much in line with 10 years of inflation. And that covers about half of the supplement, and then the other half of the supplement to the wayfinding covers the urban renewal portion of the SUFA signs, the interactive signs. That was split between parks and urban renewal and was not something originally anticipated in the wayfinding program.
Okay. Perfect. We will now accept public testimony. All persons speaking must state their name and mailing address. Limit your comments to 5 minutes. Any proponents who wish to speak? It's just you here, Jackie. Neutral? Opponents? All right. This hearing is now closed. Any further conversation from the Urban Renewal Board?
To clarify, it looks like we're taking $60,000 from the contingency budget and putting it into the materials and services budget.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay. Then,
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear.
yes. So he just asked, to clarify, we're taking $60,000. This resolution takes $60,000 out of the contingency and puts it into the materials and supplies budget.
Materials and services.
Services
that's what
budget.
we call it.
And Mr. Smith said yes. Any other questions from the council? Okay. I would take a motion to approve the staff report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Harden, that we approve the staff report as presented. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Resolution number 15, to supplement the budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. Did you have anything else to add to that, Mr. Smith? Any further council conversation about that? Any public comment about that? Okay, can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 15 and lay it upon the record?
So moved.
So move. Second.
I didn't say it here who said so moved. Was that you? Okay. Councillor Barone motioned to adopt Resolution 15, and it was seconded by Councillor Duran. Is that right? Okay. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. There's any other unscheduled communication for the Urban Renewal Board? Yes, Mr.
I shouldn't have
Go on.
added this in the urban renewal, but I just thought about it a little bit ago. One of the things that sorry, were you going to say something? Okay. One of the things that we talked about in LOC that I felt that was really, really good was that council president would meet with council members to discuss, just to get them, not really, obviously not a serial meeting, but just to talk about the packet, the procedure, and everything like that. I'm not recommending that, but maybe if we could have a discussion with the youth advisors, just to catch them up to speed, or maybe kind of give them a little bit, just make them feel a little bit more included with what's going on.
Mhm.
And I would volunteer for that if we don't have anybody else that could do that, but I'd like to have them a little bit more included with what's going on in our packet, and maybe just trains of thought of what councilors might think, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Might be able to coordinate something. Probably should have some sort of maybe administrator or multiple counselors or whatever.
And it might just help if we do a little bit more description of what we're discussing or talking about. I mean, often at our council meetings, we just go to the packet, we read it off by the captions there, and we don't, especially to the people who may be watching this or here, we don't tell them what we're actually doing or what decisions we're actually making, which is, again, why I just clarified with that, on that, because there wasn't anything in the motion or anything that we discussed that actually said what we were doing with the supplemental budget, so.
Yeah, and, like Ms. Doherty asked earlier, it was a very good question that we just passed over. So it's always nice to have those questions. So please ask more. We love educating on everybody on what we're trying to do. Yes, Councilor Peterson?
But to speak directly to
Councilor
what-
Barone?
Yeah, Councilor Barone mentioned, in more of a teaching setting, having I'd volunteer as relief pitcher, so it wouldn't be just with one counselor, in a setting where, there would be more of a back and forth dialogue of, whereas in a setting like this where it's more formalized and we are speaking towards a larger audience, that's a much different venue. So whereas I agree, being more specific could be fantastic for, the public as a whole. Providing our youth advisors a little bit of a background scaffolding to get up to what they're going to be seeing in the meetings, since they're going to be at the table with us, whereas we already have the job. I think perhaps might be beneficial if they also were so inclined, because they're
Busy young individuals too, so yeah, got to fit it all in. All right, anything else from the council? Okay, we are adjourned.
Jackie Linton, Hermiston. I didn't make the safety meeting because I am assistant pitching coach to my grandson's team. So the chief was gone. I wanted to tell him that because I normally make all of those meetings. And you all are invited out tomorrow night, 6 p.m. for their game. Also, American history. The Hermiston Cultural Awareness Coalition is having its third annual Juneteenth picnic at Mackenzie Park, and it's going to be on the 18th this year from 4 to 8 p.m. So if you don't know about Juneteenth, it's a part of American history. Come on out and you'll be able to learn more about it. Thank you.
What park was that?
Mackenzie Park.
Mackenzie,
Mackenzie
okay.
Park.
Seven-
18th.
18th.
That's a Saturday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jackie.